You know, when President Carter was president during the oil embargo, this is back in the 1970s, he knew that it was critical for national security, if not for purposes of protecting the environment, that we needed to wean ourselves from our dependence on foreign oil. At that time, the United States was 40% dependent upon foreign oil. He said if we invest appropriately in renewable energy technologies, that by the year 2000, we can reduce that 40% to 20%. Of course, we didn't listen to President Carter. Ronald Reagan went in the opposite direction altogether. And of course, now we are 60% dependent upon our foreign oil, and wars are being fought because of it. It's a sad state of affairs. Now we realize that if we don't wean ourselves not just from foreign oil, but from oil altogether, there won't be much of a planet here for our children and grandchildren to inherit, so the stakes only get higher. When we had our energy crisis here in California at the turn of the century, I was on the County Board of Supervisors at the time here in San Francisco, and literally scratching my head as to what could a local legislator do that would have any kind of significant impact on the crisis that we were having. And with the great introduction that a friend of mine made for me to his parents, a wonderful couple, Stan and Iris Ovshinsky, you may know the name. They were featured in the Who Killed the Electric Car documentary. This couple of scientists had been engaged in creating many of the patents, the early patents for photovoltaic technology. And having met them, it was such an inspiring meeting that I started thinking, what if we covered every square inch of city-owned rooftops of our hospitals and schools and jails, our airport, with photovoltaic technology? How much electricity would we produce? How much air would we clean? How much would we save? How would we pay for it? So we were able to cobble together the answers to all those questions and came up with the first of its kind, $100 million solar revenue bond. This is now just being implemented at this time in San Francisco. It will create the largest municipal renewable energy program anywhere in the country. And we knew at the time that this would be great for San Francisco, but beyond that, we also knew that as other cities followed our lead, that the demand for the technology would increase exponentially as the costs of the technology would fall equally, ever in greater parity with fossil fuels. And the idea being that's how we would finally wean ourselves from a fossil fueled 20th century to a renewably fueled 21st century. So as we go forward, I also want everyone to be thinking in personal terms as well. In fact, we've got up on our blog spot right now, what is your carbon footprint? Of course, there are many websites one can go to. We've got some links on ours so that in very few minutes, anyone can calculate his or her own carbon footprint. I think the national average is somewhere in between 7.1, 7.2 tons of carbon dioxide per year, depending upon the kind of car you drive, the amount of miles you travel each year in your car, number of airplane trips as well, short trips, long trips, the size of your electric bill, the size of your heating bill, your natural gas bill, those kinds of details. One can then determine one's carbon footprint. And that's really step one, because once that is established, that's our own individual baselines as a result of Assembly Bill 32 last year, our greenhouse gas emissions bill, which has gotten international attention. We're going to have cities and counties throughout the state of California determine their baseline so that we can reduce carbon emissions by 20% by the year 2020. Of course, we have presidential candidates now talking about reducing the nation's carbon emissions by 80% by 2050. Bold steps need to be taken if we're going to be able to slow this now ever apparently accelerating fact of global warming.